in the case of the happy stories of where people had gotten out in time, where there were no deaths, it all had to do with community organization. It all had to do with a mayor who went and told people to get out, or neighbors who went and told people to get out, but once the mayor told people, then the neighbors worked together, he moved people out, people moved people out. It had to do with communities working together. And we proposed that our project would work with communities. This is the World Bank project for Honduras and Nicaragua. Mm-hmm. It was not a particularly popular decision with the central governments, which of course were more interested in getting more goodies for themselves and believing that they could manage much better than local governments. They looked down on local governments as rather inefficient and ignorant groups. It was when we started to talk about the importance of working with communities. Who was there who was working with communities? Well, the Red Cross maybe, but in Honduras we did a trial run with the Ofrañe, the group which were politically, they were not interested in community work particularly, but they were on, Ofrañe is African Honduran rights, the blacks. So but like anyone, if they could get money to do this, they did a test project. They did it very well. They were excellent because we did a couple of trial runs in small communities. But the truth was, we went there in a sense because that's where no one else was going. We could say very comfortably to the rest of the donors, your stuff is great. You're covering the part of the central government and the major line agencies, so that you're strengthening the environmental ministry, you're strengthening the infrastructure, you're strengthening so that at the top they have all the information they need and they can work well. We're going to go to the communities because that's the part we see where you're not able to work. That did set a trend. The Japanese, among others, changed the entire focus of the disaster mitigation program towards community support. All of a sudden, the Italians discovered that they work in communities. I mean, it took about 3 years, but when we got into it, and by the time the JSDFs, I'll tell you how we get to where the JSDF comes in. But it became if the World Bank says it, then it must be good. But it was interesting. USAID changed, even though they were the ones who were saying, no, we have to set up what was the line? We have to have a comprehensive law for a comprehensive disaster mitigation system, and the comprehensive disaster mitigation systems were the theme of the day when we came in. That was what the UNDP, the Spanish, the Americans were working on. And frankly, I'm not much of a friend of institutional change. It could be great, but I was much more interested in what was going on in the field. So I left them to do. We did insist, as part of the process, that the engineers had to present their proposals to the community. They all had to be vetted by the community, and very often the communities had a lot of things to say that the engineers had never thought of. I found when I went into the field the first time after Mitch, I brought a geologist with me, and I thought he was going to run around and look at rocks and say, oh, this is that, and this is that, and this happened because that. He didn't. He just went and talked to people. He talked to the oldest people in every community. Said, what was the worst you remember? What was the highest flood level you've ever remembered? He said, the only information you really can get is from people. It's not something that experts bring in. The hardest battle was the risk prevention, let the community know where they can live versus where they can't, because that's an issue of control and, frankly, sale. There are a couple of cities, like municipalities, I can tell you, which did wonderful, wonderful things with that concept. And have never had problems since. So but others not so good because, and generally you tend to get higher, and you tend to get a group of mayors who are the ones who are looking for their way up. They think, no, this is a power issue. I can't let the people. I can't give away this land. Then I'll have people coming in and squatting on it.
I think the process itself is a learning exercise because the way it is designed is that you have sort of like the technical information. Sometimes we had to collect some of the information. In many cases, there was information. In the case of Tegucigalpa, there were some studies actually financed by JICA that were used in some of the neighborhoods. So that was also a good synergy there. But then it's not just to come and say, okay, this is the technical information and say, these are the risks that you face. But there was what they call socialization process of the information and a validation process, in which the technical people will go with the communities, and they will say, we had a flood here so many years ago, and the water was up to here. And through that process, they also check to see if the technical information really complies with the field experience. But through that process, through different workshops that are organized to validate the information, people are also educated about vulnerability, about the importance of preparing for disasters, and about the importance of mitigation. So I think that the process is not just a process of validation, but also it's an education process and an awareness building process. Then also, because the project also helped these communities create these committees and organize themselves to respond to the disasters, then that also process of, part of the education process. It's an issue that has to continue, because you organize the committees, but they need to be trained, and every so often they need to receive lessons, because the membership changes and all that. So, and there, COPECO has to work with civil defense, and we need to look at the sustainability issues now that we're going to prepare the ICR.